Welcome back to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Ewell, and today we're going to be talking about the habit of organic growth and protecting time. We got a very special guest on today's show that I'm super excited about, Mr. Scott Aaron, who's an internationally acclaimed and award-winning network marketer, best-selling author of 2 books, and getting ready to come out with a third, top podcaster and speaker. Scott is the go-to specialist when it comes to converting traffic, establishing connections, creating residual income, using LinkedIn leads generation, and building a personal brand. Scott, I want to welcome you to the episode.
Thanks, Jesse. I'm grateful to be here and looking forward to share some knowledge and giving some of your audience some tangible takeaways to put them into action.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited. And can you kind of go through who this episode is really for? Because I think a lot of times we have a misconception on, LinkedIn and some of these other platforms, but who is this really for?
It's funny. I get asked that question all the time. And if you're listening to this and your business requires another person, whether it's to purchase a product, hire you for coaching, joining a mastermind, then this episode is for you, because what people fail to recognize that the most important building block to any entrepreneur's business, whether it's network marketing, business coaching, consulting, it's not a click funnel, it's not an opt-in, it's not an email sequence, it's human connection. So I teach people the greatest building block that will never, ever go out of style, and that's creating human connection on the platform of LinkedIn.
That's amazing, man. So, I mean, really, if you have a business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a network marketer, like this is something that anybody can do and implement into their business.
It's very simple, but like you and I spoke about before, as human beings, we tend to overcomplicate the process. And with social media, it's becoming very chaotic. It's very overwhelming. There are so many resources out there that entrepreneurs' heads are spinning at this point. What free guide do I need now? What free resource should I download? And I tell people, those are all great, but what are you doing with those resources? What are you doing with those guides? And Eric Worre, who was one of the first people I latched onto when I started doing network marketing 7 years ago, he said the scariest place for any entrepreneur to be, whether they're in network marketing or not, is to look in their book and their calendar and there's nothing written down. And what I realized is that what most entrepreneurs are looking for, network marketers, business coaches, they're just looking for more connection. They're looking for more customers and clients, but what people fail to recognize is that you have to do less selling and telling and more asking and listening. Everyone is so quick to try to get the sale and try to get someone on the phone. And what I've realized in my 23 years of sales, and this is what I've been doing since I was 18, going back to when I was a personal trainer and sports nutritionist, you have to earn the trust and you have to earn the right to be able to sell someone. You have to build the value for free first,
Right.
And then ask them to invest in something. And I think that's one of the key pieces that a lot of entrepreneurs are missing.
Sure. So let's go back, because we have kind of a similar background. We both started as a personal trainer very young, but like, when did you start personal training? And then what did that teach you going forward when you became, an entrepreneur, and what kind of segue into that?
So we didn't talk about this part, but I'm an accidental entrepreneur. So my father was actually the fitness buff.
Okay.
He just turned 67. He competes globally as a top bench press competitor around the world. He holds about 3 different world records for his age group. He still benches anywhere between 325 to 340 given contests, raw, natural.
Wow.
And he was the big fitness buff. He got me into bodybuilding, but he's very transparent with his story, and I share his story because it's a part of mine. He was the one that was working out. He is the one that started our first family gym in 1998. And it was basically because he had a bad business deal. He partnered with a physical rehabilitation company where he was managing multiple locations that had him in the middle of a $9.5 million insurance fraud case, which landed my father in federal prison for 2.5 years. And basically, I was at the University of Pittsburgh, and my father basically said, listen, you got to come home, you got to go to college around Philly, and you got to take over the family business. Now, when I did have hair, I had a really big Jufro. I was more of a hippie at heart, and I used to travel the country seeing a band called Fish. That was my big.
Yeah, dude, I remember them.
Yeah, that's what I did. But the hair fell out anyway, but the hair came off, and I was thrusted into this adult role as a teenager in the fitness industry. I was an athlete. I played baseball and basketball my whole life. And I had to learn how to be a leader without knowing how to be a leader. And sometimes the best ways to learn things is by just experiencing it and going through the bumps and the bruises. But what I can tell you is I remember so vividly, behind the front desk of our gym, we had a two-way mirror where you could look out onto the gym floor. And I remember one day when I first started working there, when my dad went away and I was getting trained by the GM that became my GM, and he's 26 and I'm 18. And I saw all these fit people working out, and they looked good and they were happy. And I said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I have to look the part. I can't say that I'm a gym owner and not look like the part. So between 18 and 21, I fully engulfed myself in the industry. I got my certification in sports nutrition, group fitness, and personal training. And within about 5 years, grew my book of business to a 6-figure personal training business, which to the listener sounds great. Like, oh my God, this guy's making 6 figures as a personal trainer. But
Right.
for any personal trainer that's listening to this, knows that means I had no life. I was basically training from the minute I got up to the minute I went to bed. And there were so many great things that I learned about being a personal trainer. And I calculated, someone asked me, how much time do you think you spent personal training? And I calculated over my 18 years, it was around 65,000 hours of one-on-one coaching time. And what I realized, I was really good at human connection. I was really good at listening, because as a personal trainer, we ask our clients questions. What are you looking to achieve? Where are you struggling most? How can I help you? So the two biggest things that I learned about being an accidental entrepreneur and personal trainer is, number one, sometimes you're dealt hands that don't look good. That you look at those cards and literally it's the worst hand possible, but sometimes you have to play it anyway and it ends up working out. Number two is consistency is the cure-all. And you hear the analogy all the time, you can't go to the gym once and leave and look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's a daily habit. It's a lifestyle, much like what your podcast and your brand is. And people don't realize that whether it's working out in the gym, having a network marketing opportunity, having a coaching practice, it's creating those healthy habits, mind, body, soul, spirit, whatever it is, to create that compounded effect. And the way that I do one thing is the way that I now do everything. I'm basically taking all those lessons that I learned as a personal trainer and as an entrepreneur, and I'm applying it to my new businesses each and every day.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So you start out, gym, you're running a gym, you're a personal trainer, you're working from when you get to work till, probably 8 p.m. at night. I can remember, for about a 10, 12-year period, training about 200 to 240 clients every month. And then I started to, my marriage started to fall apart. Everything just kind of started to fall apart. And I realized that I had to, change some things up. But how long did you go through that phase before you're like, hey, there's got to be a better way and more efficient way to do this?
Well, what I can tell you is not quick enough. Between 2009 and 2014, I was married and divorced twice, much because of the lack of work-life balance that I had. You don't realize, that, you know, in your head, you're like, I have to work this hard. I have to make this money to support my family.
Right.
But if you don't have that balance at home, if you're not seeing your spouse, if you're not being there for them, how is the relationship going to grow? My second marriage was, you know, obviously it took a different form because we did have a child together. We are openly co-parenting him. She's an amazing mother. My son is 7.5 now. And I remember, like, I didn't even have time. The mentality that a personal trainer has when you're trading time for dollars, I couldn't take time off. And I was missing seeing my son grow up. I was missing living life. Like you, I was doing anywhere between 65 to 75 sessions a week. And, you know, you compound that every single week, every single month, every single year, it wears on you. And I
Yeah.
knew, and it was funny. I remember thinking to myself, you know, my father looks up to me now. He's writing books and he's doing all this stuff. But I looked up to him for a really long time. And it got to a point where I'm like, you know what? I don't think I want to be him anymore, because I didn't want to, and he still personal trains. He's still out there doing his thing at
Um,
67. And I didn't want to be a 67-year-old personal trainer. I wanted to start creating life on my own terms. And, you know, there were a lot of ups and downs, and emotional maturity had a lot to do with it. And, you know, I now have that emotional maturity to be in a solid relationship. My fiance is my rock. She inspires me every single day. And, you know, we were brought together for a reason. My son loves her very much. And obviously we're going to have a family together, but, you know, that work-life balance, I truly understand it now. You know, there's so many analogies, Jesse, that we could talk about. You know, tomorrow is not promised. You know, every day is a blessing, and it truly is. And I think what this comes down to for the listener is really taking a look at yourself in the mirror and really asking yourself, not only how do I want to live my life, but how do I want to be remembered? And I took that from my buddy Cody Schuin, who is on my podcast. He wrote a book, and, you know, he was a funeral director, and he
oh,
worked in
wow.
he worked in death, and he's a keynote speaker. He's doing incredible things. But I asked him, I said, what's the one thing that you want people to really take away from your book and what you do? And he says, don't wait for death for your legacy to be left behind. You know, ask yourself right now while you're living, how do I want to be remembered? Your legacy can be left right now. And I think that's what I started to realize, is that I wanted my son to look up to me in a way where he didn't want to be me. He wanted to be better than me, because I wanted to show him not only what greatness looks like and can be, but give him the confidence and the know-how that if I can do it, you can do it too, but I want you to do it better than me.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And I remember through a program that I was coaching in at the time, we used to take men, you know, because as men, you know, there is no blueprint on how to be a husband. There is no blueprint on how to be a father. And we learn by the mirroring of our father who learned from his father. And it's kind of like, you know, our dads only did what they were taught by their dad, and it kind of passes down. But when you get to a certain place, I think you're like, man, I don't want to be like, as much as I've looked up to my dad, I don't want to be my dad. Like my dad, you know, did mechanic work, construction work to the point where he's physically like broken. And I'm like, shit, I don't want to be that when I'm, you know, 65 years old. But it taught me what I didn't want to be just as much as what I did want to be. But I think the key thing is that question you asked. But we used to take guys to basically a cemetery, and we'd sit down with them, and we would ask them the exact same question. But they had to write a note to their wife and to their kids about how they want to be remembered. And it was like one of the biggest things that like just changed that guy that whole week. But it's amazing that you bring that up, because, you know, we often think about, well, I want to leave a legacy, but it's like, well, what are you creating today to leave that legacy? for tomorrow, and it changes how you start showing up. So I just want to say, man, that's amazing that you shared that with us, because it really resonates with me, and a lot of guys that I've worked with. So you've done this. How long have you, how long have you been doing your own thing? Like, just as an entrepreneur, what got you in? You said you were in network marketing. Is that kind of the next transition you made after personal training?
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur I've never had a boss. So I
Okay.
always tell people I'm psychologically unemployable.
Yeah.
I don't, and we talked about this in the pre-show, like we can't, I'm not I can't work for someone. It's not like anything that's holding me back where I can't grow. It's just, I'm out.
Right.
And so, yeah, the first 18 years of my career was spent, owning and running 3 fitness clubs in the Philadelphia area, having my own personal training practice, sports nutrition practice. And I did run boot camps. And then 2013, I did transition into network marketing just because of that psychological unemployment mindset. I believed in multiple streams of income. I was always looking to add to my book of quote unquote business, because, someone said to me one day, they said, listen, if you become physically unable to personal train, how are you going to make money? And that question scared the shit out of me, because that's all I had. All I knew was how to exchange time for money.
Right.
So when I jumped into network marketing, not only I hit the ground running, I had my first $10,000 month in about 22 months. But the biggest thing that I took away from it, and I think honestly, it gets the bad rap because you see all these people, posting and praying and, DMing people, hey girl, like all that stupid stuff that's out there. And I get it. There's a lot of shitty network marketers that are giving it a really bad name, but I did it the right way. I built trust and rapport and relationship with my networks. And I attribute that to my success, but also my mindset. But when I jumped into network marketing, it was a personal development journey with a compensation plan attached to it. The more I focused on my personal development, which I never did, and going back to what you said, as a man, we were not taught to acknowledge our feelings. We were not taught to write down what we're grateful for and I am statements and meditate and all of it. Like a guy just doesn't do that. But as I started reading books and I started to listening to podcasts, I'm like, there's a whole other level to me that I haven't even tapped into yet. And there was a crazy statistic that they said, I think the stat was by the age of 35, the average human being stops progressing and learning, and basically they're on autopilot till the day they die. And I'm like, I don't want to be that. I want to constantly climb that mountain where there is no pinnacle. I want to keep climbing. And I'll go back to something that Arnold Schwarzenegger said, and it was brilliant. He said, you can't climb the ladder of success with both hands in your pocket. And it's so true.
Yeah.
So when I started reading all these books and I got my mindset right, network marketing gave me the best education that I've ever gotten. And I'm grateful to have my bachelor's in human resources and all the things that I learned in high school. But life is the best teacher you will ever have. And I started really pushing forward. And when I realized that there's this whole online world out there where you can create money online, I was like, oh my God, I'm like, it's limitless potential here. You can do whatever, whether it's a network marketing company or your own product and brand. And this was the other U-turn that I took when I exited out of the fitness industry and retired from personal training. What I realized what I loved most was coaching. And what I found was I've always been a salmon in a world of fish. I've always done things a different way. If I was taught to do something, I've always learned it, mastered it, and then figured a better way to do it. It's just how I am. I need to have my own voice and I need to have my own twist on things. So when I was being taught Facebook and Instagram, which people are still taught in entrepreneurship, it just wasn't feeling good to me. The big thing that I learned is that I was being pulled away from the most valuable thing to me in my business, which was people. I was being pulled away from human connection. I was taught to take a picture, hit post, and wait for people to reach out to you, or DM or message your friends and family and try to get them into your opportunity, which felt slimy to me and I didn't want to do.
Right.
But you have to learn through that process to figure out what feels best. And that's what really led me to go onto LinkedIn, because I was seeking more professional minded people. Les Brown says, you're the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And I wanted to surround myself, even in my social network, with bigger thinkers, higher caliber people, decision makers, people that had the money mindset that people, unfortunately, the ones that do have it on Facebook and Instagram are people like you and me that are coaching and having podcasts, but the general population doesn't. They make about $30,000 a year or less, where the general population on LinkedIn is $100,000 a year or more. And when I started reading all these statistics, and my mom always said to me, and she still does, facts are friendly, Scott. And what she taught me was, if you're going to learn something, get your facts straight. Don't just put something out there because you think you know about it. So I'm a knowledge crammer. If I want to learn something, I'm going to go read blogs, I'm going to go read articles, and then I report back to what I found, how I implement it, and how it's helped me. So whenever I coach, whenever I teach, whenever I speak, it's always factual based things that I utilize myself first, because I had to go use LinkedIn first to succeed with it before I even got the right to teach it. So the best teachers are the ones that actually got their success from what they're now teaching.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I call that learning, living, and then leading. So first you got to learn it, then you got to live it, and then you have the permission to lead it. So, dude, that's amazing. That one of the key things that I really heard you say is like, listen, like, learn about whatever you're going to learn about, dive into it, but then also extract out of it kind of like master your own way of doing it. And, I can kind of attest to that, because I'm the type of guy that, if I get hooked on learning something, I'm like, I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to read everything, and I'm going to extract a better way to do it out of it. Just because that's how I'm wired that way too, man. Like I totally like relate to that. So
I know I don't know another way, because between you and me, there's a lot of people just selling just junk out there
right.
right now. And I remember having a call with my first online marketing manager. We worked together for a couple of years. She's from Canada. She's worked with some big, she's worked with Lexus and just a lot of big companies. And I just said to her, I said, listen, I have so much value. I have so much knowledge. Even the free things I give away, I give people the keys. Like, I'm not hiding anything. And I said, there's just so much junk out there. I just need to get into this space and really, spread myself around in the right way where I'm leaving people better. I always believe in giving as much as you can, because you will get back what you deserve. And I think right now people are doing the opposite. People are asking, gimme, 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 without giving to others first. You can't get before you give. You have to give in order to get back whatever that may be from your network. But if you're in that heart space of being that thought leader, being that leader, because we all have, again, we're all constructed the same way. We all have brains, we all have hearts, but I tell people, get out of your head and get into your heart. Your
Right.
brain will always try to convince you out of doing something. Always listen to your heart. And one of the first books that I read, and I'm sure you've heard of it, it's called The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. It was the first money mindset book ever written in 1910. And there's so many golden nuggets in this book, but the one big thing that I took away from it, and he said the mistake that a lot of people make is that they live in a world of competition and comparison, where they should be living in a world of collaboration and creation. He goes, when you're collaborating and creating, that is how you can create wealth. Because if you're constantly comparing and competing, you're literally competing with yourself. But if you open up the doors to collaboration and creation, that's where abundance is found. So for any of those people that are listening to this, don't be afraid to collaborate and create with someone else, because remember, an army of 2 is twice as strong than an army of 1.
Right. Yeah. So let's this is a subject that, for me, even as a personal trainer, it was like everybody's against everybody. Uh,
I'm
you
the
know,
best trainer in the world.
yeah. So
I got
like
the biggest book of business.
we kind of come into that with that mentality, and then also kind of like just being in coaching in the last 4 to 5 years, it's the same way. It's very similar to me, coaching as personal training. It's like everybody's out for everybody, everybody's against everybody, instead of this collaboration. But um when I'm against you, then I miss out on opportunities. If you're against me, we miss out on opportunities together. And I always think about, man, there's, what is it, like 73 billion people in the world, and I only really, I mean, at the most, what do we need to, make money? It's like 50 to 100 clients.
Yeah.
It's like literally like, nothing. And it's like we're all against each other, looking like idiots, fighting like you're a bad coach. Like, no, you're a bad coach. But I think that's important that people, hear that message that you said is, hey, it's about collaboration and creation, because if you're not collaborating, you're not creating. And like you said, it's very hard to create by yourself. You can to a certain point, but after a while, you have to have relationships, you have to have connections, you have to have collaboration. Otherwise, you're just going to stay small.
I mean, think about what you and I are doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, people don't like, I want you guys to like, just think about this for a second as you're listening to this. Many of you have no clue who I am. You've never heard of me. You don't know what I do, but now you do. So by Jesse and I collaborating, him inviting me on his podcast, him coming on my podcast, that opens up a new portal of connections, of future relationships. Prime example, I did an online entrepreneur webinar, and a guy reached out to me on LinkedIn. He goes, I loved your part on LinkedIn, would love to have you on my podcast. Because I said yes to collaborate with someone else heard me, they reached out to me, and now he wants me on his podcast, because now people that don't know me are going to know me, and whoever resonates me is going to reach out to me, and vice versa. I'm going to post about this podcast on my social media, so that now they're going to become familiar with Jesse. They're going to start following him. And guess who's going to be on my podcast later? You. So that know, like, and trust factor has already been built with my network. So they're going to be more open and receptive to not only your information, but reaching out to you to find out, how can this person help me?
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I kind of think of it like, when we were first personal trainers, you take out business cards everywhere you went. You're meeting people at the grocery store, they see your shirt, you're like, hey, now we have the ability to do that in like 20 times that fashion on social media, and like instantly you can make a connection with someone. But the point you made earlier was people are asking for something too early rather than getting to know someone like them and trust them. Or, if I invite you, that's different than me saying, hey, do you want to buy this? And, people are so caught up in, do you want to buy this, that they forget to actually get to know you first. So,
100%. It's one of those things where sales is not difficult when you understand how a sale is created. A sale is created by you filling a void and a need that someone else has. But you have to decipher, by speaking to that person, what their need is. And that can't be done unless you start to form a trustful and open relationship with that person. And that's not done through sliding through someone's DM and sending them a link to go schedule a call or watch this video, or sending them some drunkalog message on LinkedIn or Facebook telling you all about what you do and this, that, or the other. It's about getting on the phone with someone, learning about them. And if you're a good listener, because the less you talk and the more you listen, the more you're going to learn, you can actually see connecting points between the person that you're looking to connect with and what you can offer without having to offer. Because the sale actually comes from your story. When you can connect your story to someone else's story where there's a need or a void and there's a gap, and your story fills that gap, they're going to then have some sort of organic want for what you're offering without you even having to offer it. Perfect example. I did a pod swap with my now good buddy, Eric, and we did a discovery call, and he came on my podcast. I came on his, and he didn't really know the depths that I knew about LinkedIn. And he was just asking me questions on the podcast. We stopped the recording, and he said, dude, we need to set up another call, and I need you to talk to my two business partners because we could really use you. And they ended up hiring me. And
Wow.
So there was no pitch at all. It was a message on LinkedIn that led to a discovery call, that led to a pod swap, that led to another discovery call with his two business partners that led to the sale. That's 6 touches. But it was all in a matter of 2 weeks. But there was never me saying, hey, here's what I do. You want to hire me? It was just adding value. And then they asked, how can we work with you?
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's talk about LinkedIn. There's so many right now on social media, that people are like, I need a funnel. I need to run paid ads. I need to do all these things. But really, you teach people how to organically grow, specifically in LinkedIn first. What are kind of what's the thought behind that, and then the process in doing that? Can you share that?
There's 4 pillars, but before I get to the 4 pillars, what people need to understand is LinkedIn is having a Facebook 2012 moment right now as you're listening to this. If anybody was on Facebook between 2012 and 2014, there was more organic sales and traffic going on any other platform, and it's never going to be duplicated again until now. When I mean that there is an unbelievable opportunity right now on LinkedIn, it's an open market. It's completely underutilized. It's the oldest social media platform. So Gary Vaynerchuk, for you guys that are familiar with him, he's been going off on LinkedIn the last year and a half. I've been talking about it for 5 years, but no one knows who I am. That's why they're not listening. But now people's heads are turning because Gary Vee is saying, get on there, start producing content. And he's right. Because right now, the organic reach and the organic traffic that you can get from LinkedIn is number 1 on all of social media platforms. It's just,
Wow.
And you don't have to pay for it. So people say to me all the time, are you doing with the free version of LinkedIn or the paid version? Are you using Sales Navigator or Recruiter? No, I don't believe in paying for people. That's why I don't believe that you have to, and here's the mistake that a lot of entrepreneurs make. Just like you said, they want to create an awesome funnel. They want to create an awesome opt-in, an email sequence. If you don't have people on a list to actually market to and a network to build upon, you are not going to close any sales. You have to get into the trenches. So the 4 pillars to LinkedIn, very simple. Number 1 is your profile. And I have a free download on my website, scottaaron.net. You just click on free infographic and it goes over the 6 principles of how to optimize your profile. And why that's so important first is because when Microsoft bought LinkedIn out about 5 years ago, the genius behind that is they turned it into a search engine. So LinkedIn is being used right now, just like Google, Yahoo, or Bing. So I had a client who I worked with and I changed her profile for her. A day later, someone reached out to her and said, oh my God, I've been looking for a coach just like you. Can we talk? So you need to have specific keywords on your profile because if you don't, you are going to be absolutely invisible when it comes to searching and connecting with people. So number 1, you have to make sure that every area of your profile is filled out. Your experience, the schools that you went to, because that also connects you to people, volunteer experience, licenses and certifications. But there's one section on LinkedIn with people that are familiar with it, even if you're not. It's called the personal recommendation section. This is the testimonial section of LinkedIn. And I call it the Better Business Bureau of LinkedIn. This is where people go to brag about how this person knows what they're teaching. And over the last 4 years of my coaching practice on LinkedIn, I've accumulated close to 400 personal written recommendations. So I let my clients do the selling for me. I already know how I can help people, but when someone goes to my profile and they see all these people that say, yes, his system works, you got to work with them. That's why it's so important to build that know, like, and trust with your network. So that's step one.
I remember, I remember we would run 6-week challenges, and it was, hey, get your money back if you lose 20 pounds or 6% body fat. And the reason why is every time someone did that, what did I get back? I got a testimonial of someone's results, and then how many friends did they have that would see those same results. And so rather than spend a bunch of money on marketing, I was internally marketing, because I knew that, hey, if I got you to get results, you were going to see 5 to 10 to 15 people that would want those exact same results. So that's amazing that you talk about that, because if you look at Google reviews used to be huge, Yelp used to be huge, Facebook reviews used to be big, but now I can see how important it is to have those recommendations and things like that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, I had a client text me on Wednesday. She said, good morning, I have a fun stat. Looking at my LinkedIn, when we started, I had around 46 to 50 people looking at my profile. Today, 186, over 3 times as many people.
Wow.
And I said, this is only the beginning. She goes, I'm excited. And she goes, I hate to admit, not doing everything every day either. It's crazy. I love how people are so willing to connect and get on the phone with me. So, and so people don't understand how much of an unutilized platform this is. This is what I hear from people. Everyone says, I had a profile, 7 years ago, but I've done nothing with it, because no matter where you go, what do people talk about? Facebook and Instagram. Facebook and Instagram. And I'm telling you, the more, let those people talk about Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
You be the salmon in a world of fish and start plugging away and being that content creator and that thought leader on LinkedIn, because the second pillar is building that network. You can build your ideal network. I've grown my network from 500 to just under 28,000 connections.
Oh my
in
gosh.
3.5 years. You're allowed 30,000 organic connections, but here's the beauty of it. The way to get engagement on LinkedIn is building a network that looks like the person that's going to most likely engage and buy from you. So if you know your avatar, if you know the person that is going to most benefit from what you're putting out there and what you have to offer, all you have to do is start connecting with those types of people. So I'm going to use myself as an example. If I constantly build my network with other podcasters, other business coaches, other network marketers, and I start writing my content geared towards those people, they're going to engage, because I'm adding value to the platform that we're connected on.
Right.
Making sure that you build that network, not with you in mind, with the other person in mind. If you were the ideal client, would you accept a connection from me? So that's what you need to think about, is like, who do I need to connect with? Who's my mirror image? Because one of my first mentors, she said to me, she said, Scott, you have to wake up every day, look yourself in the mirror, and ask yourself, how am I going to connect with me today? And it was like a lightning bolt. I'm like, that's it. When I was building my network marketing business, my avatar then were gym owners, personal trainers, nutritionists, and studio owners. So what do you think I did? I started building a network that looked like me, where I would get the person on the phone and we would have a relatable story, because every trainer knows the life of another trainer. It's
Right.
no different. You're just doing it in a different studio. So that's the third part, is messaging people the right way. And this goes back to something that I said a few minutes ago. Don't verbally vomit all over people. Look to connect. And there's a 3-step process. It's very easy. It's stating the person's name. Hey, Jesse, great to be connected to you. Then the second part is looking to connect with them, stating why you want to talk to them without mentioning any sort of sales pitch or opt-in or anything. I saw that you also have a podcast, would love to hear about it anytime. And then you finish with a call to action, anytime to get on the phone to hear how we can support one another here on the platform. So step 1, the person's name. Step 2, reason for reaching out. Step 3, a CTA, a call to action. Questions lead to answers. If you just make a blanket statement, Jesse, get back to me when you can. Guess what? He's never going to, because I didn't ask to get back to me. So You have to ASK to GET. You have to ask to get. So the more that you ask, the more you're going to get. And the fourth and final pillar is content creation. Right now, LinkedIn is the number one place for content creators. And this is the great thing. You don't have to post 17 million times a day on LinkedIn like you do Instagram and Facebook. All you need to do is to create one piece of content a day on LinkedIn. That could be a post, that could be a video or an article. And here's the two keys to that. Number one, educate. Number two, inform. If you're leaving people better, if you're educating them on something that you know, if you're informing them on something that they don't know, they're going to engage, because you have to think about this pillar. That fourth pillar literally goes back to the first pillar. You build a profile that highlights the keywords of what you do. Then you know who your avatar is, and you start building a network around the people that you want to actually view your profile. You start messaging the right people that would most relate to you. Now you're building content around the people that would most engage, that have accepted your connection requests. And now you have this nice spinning wheel of organic creation, organic connection, that eventually that wheel will spin fast enough, it will start spitting money out.
Yeah, that's if you're listening to this, like, you may want to go back and listen to those four pillars again. So thank you for that, man. That's a lot of value, especially for free. So let's get into your book. You know, you have a book, and it's called the LinkedIn Book for Network Marketing. What is this book? Who's this book for? What does it teach you to do?
You know, the great thing is, when I released this book, it wasn't supposed to be called this. So I think the original name was supposed to be Get Linked In to Get Unlocked or something. And then I had a client reach out to me, and she goes, you know, there's another book on LinkedIn called Unlock LinkedIn. And I'm like, oh shit. I think, so I didn't want any copyright infringements. So I said, you know what, let's go back to what I know about SEO. Let me think about what a network marketer or someone in marketing would want. They would go on to Google, or they would go on to Amazon, and they would type in marketing for LinkedIn or network marketing LinkedIn. So whose book's going to pop up? Mine. So the book is a skeleton of some of my higher programs that I have. I have a virtual program and a one-on-one coaching program. But the book, I wanted it to be an actionable takeaway book, where at the end of every chapter, there's a key takeaway section. So it basically goes over, here are the 3 or 4 bullet points you should have taken away from that. And it's a very easy read. It's about 102 pages. It goes over your profile, you know, your avatar, and it gets people started, because I always tell people, start somewhere rather than nowhere. And I released the book almost a year ago. Just grateful that people are still loving it. It sells 3 to 4 copies a day. It's impacted more people than I can imagine. And I understand that, you know, there's always needs in there, and you know, people love reading, and it's going to be available on Audible in a couple weeks, which I'm really excited about. But the big thing is this book is for anyone. I've had people in nonprofit work, anyone. Again, I'll go back to something that you asked me in the very beginning of this episode. You know, who should be listening to this podcast? Well, anyone with a pulse should be listening to this podcast, and anyone with a pulse that requires another human being for growth in their business should read this book. And it's a very actionable book, and it takes you through step by step. There's case studies, there's testimonials, and I let you under the kimono. I have nothing to hide. And that's the thing. You know, do I give away everything? No, but I give a ton away where it's going to at least move that needle forward. And I've had people that have never had the need to hire me, because they said the book is just fine. They use their book, that's their blueprint, and they run with it. But it's a great place to get started.
Yeah, just to kind of highlight on one of that was one of the things that you realize now more than ever is we're giving away like more information today than we're giving all the answers today that we weren't willing to give 10 years ago. And people are still in the same place. They're actually having a harder time, because now they have so much information. It's like they've created they've created it and made it much harder than it actually is. And so one of the cool things that you said is, listen, you have to make it simple for somebody to understand how to move and kind of get out of their own way. But I think it's super powerful for people to really understand that it's like you have all the information you need, but that isn't always what people want. Sometimes they just want that person to be there to kind of push them forward. And I think that's really cool for you to, everything you've provided on here, I've actually paid for in courses on LinkedIn or other platforms, not just, $100, but thousands of dollars. And so I think that's really powerful that you are providing this value with people. So, and I want people to understand that, hey, like, we'll give you all the information that you need, but at the same time, you may want something more beyond that.
You got to apply it. And going back to, Jesse, I can't express to you how much I'm grateful for not just network marketing, but for personal training, because it taught me about personal accountability. So you think about the two types of people. You have the person that goes on Google, downloads a workout and tries to take them through it themselves. They're going to fall flat on their face and they're probably going to give up after 30 days. Then you have the person that spends a few $1,000s hiring you to work with them one-on-one, where they have to show up for that appointment. They don't want that money to go wasted.
Right.
But you can better believe that the accountability and the service that someone can provide when they coach them is going to get them the results. And guess what happens? They start to see the results. They're going to want more results, and they're never going to stop. And that's why there's coaches out there like you and me. That's why there's a lot of coaches out there. And I think there's a lot of people that may be listening to this that say, okay, they're talking about, I hired my first coach when I stepped into network marketing 90 days in, before I had my first $1,000 month. I actually went into the negative of my business. So I actually went into debt to hire this coach, because I knew I wasn't looking for a shortcut. I was looking to shorten the learning curve, because the faster I can learn, the more I can grow. I'll go back to when I was competing. When I was training for shows, I had a posing coach, I had a nutritionist, and I had a trainer. I hired 3 different people over that 14 weeks to get me on the stage to look the way that I wanted to, because I wouldn't do it myself. I needed people to guide me. So I can't express to you guys how important not only personal coaching is, but if the person that you're working with, and this is the thing, Jesse works with people. I still work with people. I hire people. When your coach thinks they know everything, they actually know nothing. The teacher is always the student. And I think that's what people forget. We are teachers, but we are also students of the game. We are never satisfied with where we are. We're always looking to grow. And all we're doing is we're just a few steps ahead of you. But when people work with us, we're catching you up and we're sending you off to get the success that you deserve. The best investment that any one person can make is not in a coach, it's in themselves.
Right. And, I will tell you this, that I have more coaches today than I did, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And I look at athletes, most athletes have, a nutritionist, a performance coach, almost like a recovery coach. They have, multiple coaches for them. They make those investments for themselves to get better and to have that slight edge.
Did you hear the stat on LeBron James and how much he spends on his body every
300,000?
$1.5 million.
Yeah, 1.5 million. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean,
just on his body, like on his body, on his nutrition, his recovery, he spends $1.5 million a year. And I want you guys to let that sink in. That's $120,000 a month LeBron James is spending on himself. So what do you think that's going to do over time? And here's what I also learned, Jesse, I spend more money on myself. I invest more money in myself. And guess what? I've done that every year for the last 4 years. And guess what happened? I've made more money every single year because of that.
Yeah, no doubt. So there was one thing, there's a book called Wealth Mastery. and it's written by a guy named Tim Grimes, but it's all off the teachings of Neville Goddard. Guy was on my podcast because I took this concept from him. Is he said you're either every second of the day you're either spending or investing, and we're either spending in thought, time, money, energy, or we're investing in time, thought, money, and energy. And this kind of goes with what you're saying is like, hey, it's your choice. You can either spend the money, you can either spend time worrying about how much something costs, like maybe getting a LinkedIn coach, or you can invest the money to have a coach and you'll get the return back. Because I don't know about you, but anytime I've ever invested in myself, I've always gotten a return paid back to me by some type of dividend, whether it was even just the wrong investment and I learned from it, or it was the right investment and I learned from it. It didn't matter. But when I thought of it from spending, I never got a return on it.
100. There's a lesson in everything. And, I was in a high level mastermind all last year that was, the investment was a down payment on a house.
Right.
And it scared me to death. But my fiance said, listen, you have to do this. Like, you're ready. And you better believe I squeezed the juice out of that mastermind. Every drop that I could squeeze out of it, whether it was networking or masterminding with people or collaborating. That's the thing. Everyone, when they make an investment into a coach, they think that the return on the investment is in a dollar value. Sometimes the ROI of your investment may not be a sale. It may be another connection. It may
Right.
be a collaboration. It may be a podcast interview that leads to something else. Or like you said, it might be the wrong investment that teaches you one of the greatest things that you can learn, which is a lesson. The more lessons that you learn, and something that I always tell people, your failures always open the doors to your successes. So the more often you're willing to fail, the more often you're going to learn how to succeed.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So you also have a podcast, and it's called Network Marketing Made Simple. Is that
Yep.
what it is?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, all the major podcasts.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, you have a heartbeat or a pulse, definitely go check this out. Scott is like literally giving you guys so much value today. I'm about ready to push pause and then come back and re-record this and actually charge you guys to listen to it. So if there was one habit you would pride your success on, what would it be, man?
Protecting my time. And this is
Okay.
something that my fiance helped me with last year. And here's the interesting thing. The less that I've worked, the more money I've made. I started protecting my time last year. I don't do anything before 10 a.m. Eastern. So my fiance and I, we wake up at 6. We take the dogs for a walk. We go to the gym. We come back. We make coffee, have breakfast, sit down. We talk about our day, and nothing happens before 10 a.m. And now I've basically put in. I don't do anything past 7:30 at night because I need 6 hours in the morning and I need 3 or 4 hours at night for me to unwind. So if I can give myself 10 hours a day where I'm just focusing on me and caring for me. And again, I don't do anything on the weekends either. So my success is based on 5 days a week. And the new challenge that I'm trying to do right now is no work on Fridays. I'll do podcasts on Fridays, but no client calls on Fridays. So I want to squeeze down my schedule into 4 days a week, which means I'm only going to be working 16 days a month. And if you compound that over a year, that's under 200 days a month that I'll actually be working. So I'll have 165 days off a year.
Wow, that's amazing, man. I think protecting your time, especially the first thing you do and the last thing you do before you go to sleep, and the first thing you do when you go get up. I don't do anything before 9:30, 10 o'clock Pacific time either. So just the fact that you're doing that, that's amazing, man. And I think so many people, the first thing they do every single day is jump on social media, jump on their phone, they get a hit, and then it's like they can't get off of it. And so I want to say, man, that's a huge lesson and a huge thing that I think is really devalued. Or the last thing we do, a lot of times is we check our social media, check our phone before we go to bed. And I kind of have a design PM routine, AM routine, knowing that, how we start our day has as much to do with how we end our day the night before. So
Absolutely.
hey man, if people want to know more about you, if they want to do coaching with you or want to check out some of your programs, where do they go?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to do it is just go to my website, scottaaron.net. It has all my course descriptions. I have a virtual course, a one-on-one course. But even before you even go there, you can always schedule a free 15-minute discovery call where I'm happy to give you a diagnostic look at your business, maybe some things that you're struggling with, give you some tangible takeaways. And if you feel the value is there and you see me a good fit, how we can work together.
Okay, that's awesome. If you guys are listening to this, I'll make sure I put any links in the show notes for Scott's book, his podcast, and then also his coaching program. So you can make sure you go to check that out. Hey man, I really want to thank you for being on here today and just providing so much value for our listeners. It's been amazing.
Yeah, Jesse, thank you again. And, I love, people don't understand the power of podcasting and just making new connections because, one mindset that's changed, one person that takes just a little bit more action today than they were the day before can radically change their life and their business and the lives of others. So I just appreciate you and the opportunity that you gave me today.
Yeah, thank you, man. If you guys are looking to connect further with a group of like-minded people, join myself and so many others in the Habit-Based Lifestyle Secrets group on Facebook, where I will be dropping daily habits to help you live to your full potential. If you want to be one of our next case studies and begin living this habit-based lifestyle, check out habitbasedlifestyle.com, or you can email me with questions, comments, or requests, jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com. Until next episode, have a great day. All right, man, that was awesome. So that was amazing.
Thank you, brother. No, that was,
dude, I'm ready to schedule a call with you.
Yeah, it's funny when you like you just when you really sync up with someone, like it's just easy to just talk. And the one thing that I know is that it's easy to talk about things that you love. And somebody was interviewing me for a speaking event, and they were doing an interview, and they're like, "Man, you're really passionate about what you do." And I said, "Why wouldn't I be? This is what I do." Like, and if we're on a phone call, you're going to have to hear my passion through the phone. And that's why I try to bring as much as I can to the podcast, because I know most people are driving to their job or they're listening where they're listening. So I want to get them fired up any way I can.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. I really appreciate, just you being on today and what you bring to the table. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you want to schedule time to do the next thing?
Yeah. When so I what's your schedule like on Thursday the 12th for you to hop on mine?
Let me see. I can do 10 a.m. Pacific.
So let's see. Right now I have, if you can do 9:30 Pacific. So right now I can record at Pacific time 8, 9, 9:30, and then after 12:30 Pacific.
Let's do one. Can you do 1 p.m. Pacific?
I can. I'll send you a link for the. We're going to do it through Zoom just like this.
Yeah. Do you want to do, so you want to do the training on this day?
Oh no, I was going to interview you on my podcast.
Okay, cool.
I mean, what day would you like me to do the training? It's complete. Like, we can do it next week, the week after.
We could do Friday if you want.
Is there a specific time? Right now, I have 9 to 10 open. Pacific, or even earlier, 7 a.m. Pacific. And then I also have 11 to 12 Pacific open.
Let's do 11 to 12. So one sec. You have me scheduled at 1 p.m. or 12 p.m. next week for
1 p.m. on Thursday.
Okay.
And then we'll do the training at 11 a.m. Pacific on Friday.
So maybe what we'll do is we'll just on the training we'll bump you into like I'll get you in the group. We'll kind of promote it throughout the week, and then what we'll do is maybe just do the 15-minute call or for a call to action, or what do you want to do for that?
I mean, do you have like if you create, and this I again I love over delivering. So if you want to create do you use Zoom, obviously? Do you have the pro version where you can create the webinar where you can stream to your Facebook group?
Oh yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
So if you can do that, I can share my screen, and I have like a 45-minute LinkedIn PowerPoint presentation that I can take them through.
Okay.
Basically going over some stats, how their profile breaks down, helping them craft a message, and then I do some Q&A at the end. So I can literally block off an hour for you to go in and do this whole training with them.
Perfect. Yeah. Do you know Brody Pearson?
Yeah. He's Brooks' photographer.
Yeah, he did one on Instagram last week in my group.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, Brody's a great guy.
Yeah, so he did one on Instagram last week, but he did the same thing, basically webinar style.
Yeah. I mean, I do about 2 to 3 presentations a week. So, much like the one that I did for your wife's mastermind group yesterday. So I'll go in for an hour, do my whole little thing. And then I can send you some stuff to send to them. I can message you on Facebook some links to share, a link to a call, the book, podcast.
So I'm going to invite you right now to the group.
Okay.
Hold on one sec. Yeah, so I'll have to do that on my other computer once I get
it's okay.
Here we go. I got it.
You got it?
I'm gonna send you the link and then just go through it and I'll accept your thing. Hold on. It's funny because I asked a few questions before if anybody wanted me to ask a question on this, and I already have people responding to it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so we'll kind of maybe wrap that into next. I'll just segue that into next week's show.
Perfect.
There we go. Yeah, so I just shared the link with you.
Got it. All right.
Okay, man. Anything else?
No, Jess, I'm just grateful for you. And, I just thank your wife in advance for obviously plugging me and having us get introduced. And if there's anything that I could do for you and your wife, just let me know. I'm happy we could set up another call, just the three of us, kind of talk a little bit more about what I do and how we can help each other.
Yeah, that'd be amazing, man. So I look forward to next Thursday.
Yeah, me too. And Friday, and if I'll get you all the resources for Friday's training. Just send me the Zoom link that I should use for the webinar, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, perfect, man. Have a great Friday and a great weekend.
You too, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Later, Jess.
All right. Bye-bye.